Is it true that it's better to look poor versus looking rich? We're talking now about whether you should be displaying any form of wealth or you should downplay it all and basically just blend in and look very average. I have a different take on this because I have lived both sides of the coin. I've looked rich, I've looked poor. Today I have a very particular approach to this subject that I want to share with you. All right, but let me quickly summarize the pros and cons. And let's start with looking rich. There are many benefits of looking rich, let's not lie. Everything from that, you get like a little confidence boost because you feel like, oh, I signal success, I raise now a bit in status, and that feels good, let's not lie. You are gonna unlock many perks in life as well, especially if you signal success. Such people are usually perceived that they have higher credibility versus if you don't look as successful. Subconsciously, they will think that you're gonna be more competent, more trustworthy, and simply that you have more authority. And you know, that can be very helpful in business settings, let's say if you're looking for clients, etc., versus if you have the complete opposite image. Another perk is that you are going to have more access in society. You're going to have access to elite circles. You will have opportunities coming your way. And you might even get better treatment in certain circumstances. And so this is actually a fact. I know it sounds super annoying because many of these things that I've just mentioned to you, we shouldn't judge each other in such a way, but unfortunately society does, you know, and it's kind of the way it is. Although all of this sounds incredibly wonderful, there's always going to be a trade-off. And the big trade-off when you look rich is that you will get more jealousy and resentment towards you, especially if people stereotype you as the rich person. And that does come with quite a lot of disadvantages, believe it or not. You will also be a higher target for crime. That's going to add its own stressors. And generally speaking, your wealthy image is actually going to be more costly. Whether you have that wealth or you don't, you will have higher reoccurring expenses to maintain that image. But you know what's also going to happen is that you're going to be priced higher. Let's say when you hire service providers or contractors, or you know, when you get quotes for things. I've tested this, by the way, and unfortunately it is true. If you look rich, they're going to give you a different quote versus if you look less rich. Now let's talk about looking poor, because there are many great benefits to that. Everything from that, it's cheaper. You can actually take the money you save from continuously maintaining that image to invest in something that's long-term going to bring you more wealth. I'd say, though, that the biggest advantage is the freedom. The freedom you get when you don't have any pressure to look something, like you have no pressure to maintain your image. You are free from all the jealousy, you are free from the comparison and from the status game. And so if you are kind of looking poor by choice, probably you're not going to be bothered what people think of you and your appearance. Additionally, you're also going to feel more free because you don't have to worry as much for your safety. Like you are naturally going to be more private, less targeted, less eyes on you, and you can then move through life more anonymously and just be. What's also quite nice is that you're going to be more approachable because people will see you as relatable, as down to earth, and this way you will be able to connect with a broader pool of people in society, which is a big plus in many ways. All right, but what about the downside? You might feel like you gain less respect or you are being underestimated because you don't have that perfectly polished image. Because it's true, in certain areas of society, your image does matter more than in other areas of society. So yeah, you might get overlooked, you might be misjudged, that's a fact. And what's also a fact is that unfortunately, you will also have slightly less access than if you look more expensive. I think this can definitely become slightly problematic for you if you have certain aspirations which has to do with elite environments or professional environments. I also think that if you are surrounding yourself in such circles, you might also feel awkward or out of place if you don't look the part. If everybody looks completely different to you and you're kind of there looking shabby, you might feel uncomfortable. Or you might not. It all depends, of course, also on your confidence levels. Now, there's also an aesthetic disadvantage to all of this. And so if you dress very plainly, this can really dull your entire appearance. That can transmit in two different ways. One, on your own self-image, like how you feel about yourself. Because clothing, they carry energy. And so if you wear a beautiful, nice dress, you're going to feel very powerful and confident, right? Plus, outwardly, you might simply look less magnetic, less interesting. If you dress very modestly, very toned down, like look at it from a professional context. Sometimes it does hurt the credibility, because if a person who shows up to see a potential client looks very unpolished and the clothes look very, let's call it simple, the potential client might think, well, if she's that good at her service, why doesn't she look successful? And that's the thing, like that's how people think, unfortunately. Now, as you can hear, we have a bunch of different pros and cons, and actually all of them make sense if you think about it, whether we like it or not. But how do you then know which direction you should go in? Because online you hear me talk about why it's so good to look expensive, and then you have somebody else say why it's so good to look poor. And I think you should really find an approach that works for you. I want you to think for yourself what's better for you. And you have to take into consideration season of your life that you're in. What stage in life are you in? What goals do you have? What aspirations do you have? What's important for you? What's authentic to you? What's your genuine self-expression? If you think about all of those things, you will understand what's important for you in the end of the day. Because for some people, especially if you have, let's say, social goals or professional goals, yeah, maybe it is then more important to look more expensive. But on the contrary, if you don't have any of those goals, maybe your goal is to save money. Maybe your goals are more introspective. Maybe your goals are just less dependent on other people. It's also really what you feel comfortable in. Because in the end of the day, clothing and our appearances bring us an energy. Maybe you need this energy in your life. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have a genuine interest in expressing yourself every single day through your aesthetic. Maybe aesthetics is important for you, and so you want to prioritize that. Then yes, you should definitely look more expensive then if that is your preferred choice of aesthetic. As you can hear, there isn't one size fits all approach, and that's why you need to think for yourself what's best for you. Now look, my goal here on this channel is to make sure that you get a balanced approach to things and that I can bring you as much honesty to a topic as I possibly can. Nothing in life is black and white. There's a lot of gray zone, and we have to take both sides always into consideration when we evaluate things. Back in the days, I would be shouting from the roof, oh, elegance, elegance, elegance. And while that might work for some, it might not work for everybody. So you always have to think about what works for you. And so if you are interested in my approach, make sure you are subscribed. But now, go and watch this one. See you there.